I knew the day would be ugly long before the courthouse even came into view. The sky was gray, the kind of gray that made the air feel heavy, like the city itself was warning me to brace for impact. I parked my car 2 blocks away because I needed a moment to breathe, a moment to remember who I was before all of this, before lawyers, before custody evaluations, before my husband turned into a stranger wearing his own skin. When I finally stepped out of the car, the wind cut across my face. I held my folder tighter than I held anything in my life. It wasn't thick, but it felt heavy, like it carried every sleepless night, every argument, every bruise on my confidence. And in a way, it did. The courthouse door slid open with a loud whoosh, and there he was, my husband Ethan, smirking like he already owned the outcome. He leaned against the wall in a crisp navy suit he never wore during our marriage, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a silver folder. That folder, the one he'd bragged about, hinted at during every negotiation. The secret folder he claimed would end this whole custody thing permanently. Behind him stood his girlfriend, young, blonde, always smiling like she knew something I didn't. She waved her fingers at me, small and smug, like she was greeting a distant relative she pitied. For a moment, I almost turned around, almost walked back to my car, locked myself inside, and let the world move on without me. But then I pictured my son's face, his small hands clutching my sweater whenever he got scared, his sleepy voice asking, "Mommy, will I still see you every day?" That memory straightened my spine. I walked past Ethan without slowing down. His cologne hit me, familiar and nauseating at the same time. He leaned close enough for only me to hear, "Hope you said goodbye to him." I didn't answer. He didn't deserve my voice. Inside the courtroom, fluorescent lights hummed above us, rows of wooden benches creaked under people shifting their weight. The room smelled of old paper and colder decisions. Our lawyers greeted each other like old friends, which they probably were. That was the part that always bothered me, no matter how emotional these cases got. Attorneys never forgot they were playing a game. When Ethan sat down beside his lawyer, he set the silver folder in front of him like a trophy. He tapped it twice with his finger. His girlfriend sat behind him, crossing her legs slowly, watching me with that same smirk he had, the kind of smirk people wear when they think the world bends for them. The judge entered the courtroom. Everyone stood. Then we sat, and the judge wasted no time. "This is the final custody hearing for Reed versus Reed." My stomach tightened at the sound of my last name tied to his. Ethan's attorney spoke first. Smooth voice, confident tone. He listed their points like a man reciting scripture. According to him, Ethan was a stable parent, responsible, consistent, capable of providing a complete family environment. He mentioned the girlfriend too, framing her presence as a maternal bonus for our son. He painted me as emotional, stressed, struggling, unpredictable, words that almost sounded polite if they weren't dripping with implication. I kept my face still when his lawyer finished. He sat back proudly, like he'd delivered poetry. Then Ethan nudged the silver folder forward, clearing his throat. "Your Honor, I also have additional documentation I believe will clarify several concerns regarding my wife's fitness as a parent." My heart thudded. This was the folder he'd threatened me with for months, the one he swore could destroy me completely. He had hinted at screenshots, recordings, even journal pages. I didn't know what exactly was inside, but I knew it was twisted, manipulated, fabricated, maybe. He liked making threats sound final. The judge raised an eyebrow. "We'll review any supplemental evidence shortly. First, I'd like to hear from the mother." My attorney touched my arm gently, a signal. My turn. I stood up. My knees trembled, but my voice didn't when it finally came out. I told the truth, not the dramatic kind, not the kind meant to win sympathy. Just the truth. How Ethan stopped coming home nights, how he'd ignore our son's calls, how he'd belittle me in whispers while smiling in public, how he'd tell our son that I was too emotional, planting seeds of doubt in a child who still slept with a stuffed dinosaur. I didn't cry, not once. The judge watched me closely, her pen pausing each time I described something that wasn't just a fight but a pattern. When I sat down again, Ethan was glaring at me, jaw tight. That glare told me I had wounded him purely by not breaking down. Then, the judge gestured toward him. "Mr. Reed, you mentioned supplemental evidence. Please bring it forward." He stood, smoothing his jacket like a peacock preening before a dance. He lifted the silver folder with both hands, like he expected applause. "Yes, Your Honor, this contains everything you need to understand the kind of instability my wife, The judge held up a hand. Let me see it. He hesitated. Not long. Just half a second, but I noticed a flicker of panic crossed his eyes before disappearing. Behind the smirk again, he placed the folder in front of the judge. She opened it. The sound of paper sliding echoed in the silent room. She looked at the first page, then the second. Her expression didn't move at first. Then it did. Her eyebrows rose. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She flipped another page, faster this time, then another, and another, each turn sharper than the last. Your Honor, Ethan's attorney asked cautiously. The judge didn't look up. Her eyes stayed glued to the folder like she was reading something she couldn't believe was real. Finally, she closed it softly. Then she said the 9 words that wiped the smirk clean off my husband's face. Mr. Reed, where exactly did you obtain these documents? His mouth opened and closed like he was swallowing his own tongue. My stomach twisted because I knew exactly what she had seen. They weren't screenshots. They weren't recordings. They were journal entries. My journal entries. Pages from the notebook I kept in my nightstand. Pages Ethan had taken when he moved out. Private thoughts he had ripped out of context. Some written during postpartum depression, some during panic attacks, some during the worst nights of our marriage. Words meant for healing, not humiliation. The judge tapped the folder once. These pages are extremely personal. They appear incomplete, redacted, torn, and some show signs of alteration. My breath caught. Ethan's face went white. Before he could answer, the judge continued. Did you write these entries? She turned to me. No, I said quietly. They were mine, but I never submitted them, so this wasn't voluntary. The judge asked. No, Your Honor. She nodded once, long and slow, like she was solving a puzzle. Then she looked directly at Ethan. Mr. Reed, this is potential evidence tampering. You could hear the girlfriend gasp behind him. My husband stammered. No, I just thought these pages show she's unstable. These are her words. My words, yes. But he had rearranged them. Some sentences were crossed out, others rewritten. One entry completely fake. My handwriting copied but wrong, tilted differently. He wasn't as clever as he thought. The judge had noticed. She leaned back, folding her hands. I need you to explain, Mr. Reed, why you have altered documents in a custody trial. His smirk was gone, his confidence was gone, his entire posture collapsed like someone had pulled the bones out of him. He looked at his lawyer. His lawyer looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. The judge wasn't finished. We will address this shortly, but before we proceed, I need to ask the clerk to bring in the witness requested by the guardian ad litem. Witness. My attorney leaned toward me. Did you know about a witness? I shook my head. Ethan looked lost. The doors opened. My breath caught. Because my son walked in, flanked by the guardian ad litem and a child specialist. Ethan whispered something under his breath. Something sharp. Something like, oh God. And for the first time in months, I felt the shift. The power tilting. The truth waking up. The judge smiled gently at my son. Sweetheart, we just want to talk to you for a moment, okay? He nodded, small and brave, clutching something in his hand, something I recognized instantly. The blue notebook I bought him. My son had brought something too. And I knew, right then, Ethan wasn't the only one with a secret. He shuffled toward the stand, sneakers squeaking on the polished floor. For a second, I forgot this was a courtroom. He just looked like my little boy on school picture day, nervous but trying to be brave. The guardian ad litem helped him climb into the big chair. His feet dangled, nowhere near the floor. The judge's voice softened in a way I hadn't heard all morning. She leaned forward a little. She didn't call him by last name. She used his first, gave it warmth. He held that blue notebook to his chest like a shield. My notebook, he said quietly when she asked what it was. Ethan shifted on his chair. I heard his lawyer whisper, this isn't in the plan. It wasn't meant for him either. The judge smiled at my son. Did someone ask you to bring it? The guardian spoke. We asked if he had anything he wanted to share about his home life. He brought this without prompting, said it might help tell the truth. Something in my chest cracked open at that word. Truth, the judge asked gently. Do you know why you're here today? He nodded, staring at the notebook. Daddy says you have to live with him. Mommy says she just wants me to be safe. My hands gripped the edge of the table. I didn't remember telling him that out loud, but I must have, in some tired moment. Some late night when I thought he wasn't really listening. The judge glanced at me for a second, then back to him. And what do you want? He hesitated. I saw his little throat move as he swallowed. I want to sleep, he whispered. The judge leaned in. Sleep. His fingers tightened on the notebook. Daddy wakes me up a lot. Behind me, someone shifted. The room felt like it sucked in air all at once. The child specialist spoke softly now. Can you tell us what's in your notebook, buddy? My son nodded again, fumbling with the elastic band wrapped around it. He pulled it off and opened to a page near the middle. From where I sat, I could see clumsy handwriting, crayons, little stick figures. I wrote stuff down when Daddy said. He paused, searching for words, when he said we had to practice. Practice what? The guardian asked. What to say here? He looked around the room then, at the judge, at me, at Ethan, even at the girlfriend. Daddy made me say Mommy yells all the time. He said I had to tell you she's crazy. He said if I didn't, you'd take me away. The words dropped into the room like stones into water. No one moved. No one breathed. For a second, the entire world narrowed to that chair, and that small shaking voice. Ethan's chair scraped back. That's not what I said, his lawyer hissed. Sit down. The judge's head snapped toward him. You will not interrupt your son. He lowered back into the seat, but his face, the smirk, was long gone, color drained, jaw clenched. The secret folder on the judge's bench looked small compared to the blue notebook in our son's hands. The guardian pointed gently. Can you read us something you wrote? He nodded and squinted at the page. Daddy says, remember, Mommy bad, Daddy good. Say she's scary, even if she's not. He sounded the tougher words out. His tongue stuck a little on scary. The judge's pen hovered in the air, frozen. Then he flipped a page. On this one, the crayon drawings were bigger, messier, a stick figure man towering over a smaller stick figure child, a lightning bolt mouth drawn on the man. What about that one? The child specialist asked softly. My son stared at it for a long time. That's when Daddy yelled at me because I cried at his house. He told me if I told you I liked Mommy's house, she'd go to jail. So I wrote it down so I don't forget what he said. Something hot burned behind my eyes, but I blinked it back. Crying here wouldn't help him. He needed to see me steady. The judge's voice changed again, went from soft to steel, with no space in between. She looked at Ethan. Mr. Reed, is there a reason your son felt the need to document his fear of speaking honestly in this courtroom? He shook his head too fast. I never said that. He's just making it sound bad. You know how kids are. He turned to his son with a tight smile. Bafta, remember what we talked about. Sometimes the judge slammed the gavel once. Do not coach him from your seat. His mouth snapped shut. My son's shoulders flinched at the sound. But he stayed in the chair, still clutching the notebook, still braver than any adult in the room. The guardian gently asked, has Mommy ever told you what to say? He shook his head instantly. She said, just tell the truth, even if it hurts her. My throat closed. I remembered that moment now. In the kitchen, him asking, what do I say if they ask who I want to live with? Me staring at the wall behind him, knowing there was no right answer. Just tell the truth, I'd whispered, voice breaking. Even if it hurts me. The judge nodded slowly, like she'd just had a piece of glass removed from her heart. Thank you, sweetheart, she said. You've been very brave today. You can go sit in the other room with the nice lady now. Okay. He nodded and slid down from the chair. Before he was let out, he looked back at me. I smiled. Not big, not proud, just soft, safe. The kind of smile that says, you did everything right. Then he left. The moment the door closed, the room changed temperature. It wasn't my imagination. The air felt thicker, heavier, serious in a way it hadn't been when we were just trading accusations. Like chess pieces. The judge turned to Ethan. You brought me a folder full of altered, selectively chosen private writings, and expected it to destroy your wife's credibility. Your own son brought a notebook and it exposed yours. His lawyer started. Your Honor, we object to the characterization. She cut him off with a look. Objection noted and overruled. Her gaze locked on Ethan again. You coached your child to lie in a custody hearing. That is emotional abuse. You misused personal documents. That is manipulative. You attempted to deceive this court. That is unacceptable. He tried to recover. I just wanted what's best for him. The judge's voice sharpened. What's best for him does not involve forcing him to choose between parents with threats and rehearsed scripts. What's best for him is knowing the adults in his life tell the truth. Silence slammed into us again. The girlfriend shifted in her seat like she wanted to disappear. Her mascara, perfect when she walked in, had smudged at the edges. She wouldn't meet his eyes. My attorney cleared his throat. Your Honor, In light of the evidence, we request that my client be granted primary physical custody with Ethan's parenting time reduced and supervised pending further evaluation. Ethan exploded then. This is insane. She's the one with issues. Have you seen those journal pages? She's written about wanting to disappear, about not being able to cope. The judge tapped the silver folder again. The ones you ripped out, struck through, removed dates from, and rewrote portions of. I see someone trying to cope in those pages. I see a mother struggling and still showing up. Do you know what else I see? He didn't answer. She didn't wait. Anyway, I see her never once weaponizing your mental health, Mr. Reed. Not here. Not in any documentation. Only you did that. He sagged back into his seat like someone cut his strings. His secret folder had become a mirror, and he didn't like what it showed. The judge took a breath, then, the kind of breath people take when they're about to say something that matters. She shuffled some papers, glanced at the guardian ad litem, then at us. Her eyes softened a fraction when they landed on me. This court's primary concern is the safety and well-being of the child. She looked at Ethan again. You have shown poor judgment, dishonesty, and a willingness to manipulate both your son and this process. She turned to me. You have shown consistency, cooperation, and a desire to protect your child, even at personal emotional costs. The next words came slow, deliberate. Therefore, I am awarding primary physical custody to the mother. The father will have supervised visitation every other weekend, pending completion of a parenting course and further evaluation. Any attempt to coach, threaten, or manipulate the child regarding these proceedings will result in immediate suspension of visitation. My ears rang. For a second, I thought I misheard her. My heart had been preparing for loss for so long, it didn't quite know what to do with survival. My attorney squeezed my arm. You won custody, he whispered. Across the room. Ethan stared straight ahead, as if the world had just been pulled out from under him. The girlfriend leaned back, eyes wide, mascara fully smudged now. The smugness that walked in with them had evaporated completely. The judge wasn't finished. And one more thing, she said, picking up the silver folder. You will surrender this to the court. It will be sealed, along with transcripts of your son's notebook entries, for his protection. You will not show these pages to him. You will not mention them. You will not use his mother's private pain as conversation fodder. Do you understand? He nodded stiffly. Say it, she said. I understand, he ground out. Hearing that did something to me I can't fully explain. It didn't feel like revenge. It didn't even feel like victory. It felt like the first honest consequence I had seen in years when we were dismissed. The benches groaned as people stood. Papers shuffled. Shoes scraped. Ethan stayed seated for a moment, staring at the empty space where the folder had been. When he finally got up, he looked older, smaller, somehow both. I walked to the hallway in a fog. The fluorescent lights hummed. Voices echoed. I reached for the wall without thinking, fingers brushing cool paint. You did good in there, my attorney said. It was the first time I believed anyone who said that to me in a long time. Ethan caught up to me just before the exit. You think this is over? He spat quietly, anger spitting out now that the judge wasn't in earshot. You made me look like a monster. I turned to him. You did that yourself. He laughed once, bitter. You'll turn him against me. I shook my head. No, Ethan. You did that the night you told him I was crazy if he loved me. He flinched, just a flash, but I saw it. The girlfriend hovered behind him, arms folded across her chest, eyes on the floor. She looked at me only once. There was no superiority in that look anymore, just something that almost resembled shame. I walked outside without waiting for an answer. The air outside hit my face like a different season. It was the same gray day, same wind, same city sounds, but something was different. Or maybe it was just me. I found a bench outside the courthouse and sat for a moment, feeling the wood beneath my hands, the cool metal back against my spine. For the first time in months, my shoulders weren't creeping up toward my ears, my jaw wasn't clenched. I pulled my phone from my bag. There was a photo on the lock screen, my son in pajamas, cereal bowl in front of him, milk spilled, grinning with a spoon in his hand like it was all part of a joke. I thought about the night we bought that blue notebook. He'd picked it out because it had a rocket ship on the cover. Said he wanted to write stories about space. I didn't know then that he'd use it to write his way out of something much darker. Inside that courtroom, my husband had walked in believing his secret folder made him invincible. He thought holding my rewritten pain in his hands made him powerful. He never imagined the smallest person in the room would show up holding something stronger. Not a secret, not a weapon, just the truth. Written in crooked letters and crayon. That night, after I picked my son up from the guardian's office, he climbed into the back seat and buckled himself in with practiced hands. We drove in silence for a few minutes. Then his voice floated up from the back. Did I do good? I looked at him in the rearview mirror. You did brave. Is brave good? He asked. Bob, brave is the best, I said. He thought about that, then nodded and turned to watch the city sliding by outside. When we got home, he put the blue notebook on his shelf between his dinosaur toys and his stack of comics. I noticed he didn't tuck it away or hide it. He just placed it there in the open, like it was finally just a notebook again. Later, when he fell asleep, I stood in his doorway and listened to his breathing. No tension, no whispered coaching from the shadows, just the soft, steady inhale and exhale of a child who had told the truth and survived it. On the kitchen counter, a manila envelope sat waiting, court copies, official language, legal words wrapped around something simple. We believe you. I didn't frame them, didn't pin them to the wall. I didn't need to. The real proof was in the room down the hall, sleeping with his rocket notebook on the shelf, and no script shoved into his hands. My husband had smirked at the start of that day. By the end, the only thing left smiling back at him was a reflection he couldn't manipulate anymore, and for the first time in a long time, as I turned off the lights and locked the door, the silence in my house didn't sound like fear. It sounded like custody. It sounded like peace.